guys, I'm doing a quick product overview and an installation video of a Nilight LED light bar. So this is a light bar that I just got for Christmas, and this is by Nilight. It's one of the cheaper brands on Amazon, and this is the 25-inch LED light bar. It is a combo flood spot, so it's got a spotlight in the middle for long distance illumination, and on either ends you have floodlights to get a wide range laterally on the vehicle. It has 3 mounting brackets on it, and they have a lot of adjustability built in. So they're in a radial slot, so you can slide them up and down, and that angles the light bar up and down so you can aim it closer to the ground or up in the sky. They are also mounted in slots, so you can loosen up a set screw and you can accommodate any different mounting width. Overall, just looking at the build quality, the housing looks very rugged. It's an aluminum construction. It looks to be very well sealed, so it should be waterproof. Per the Amazon description, it has an impact resistant lens, so it should be able to handle all sorts of harsh conditions. Even going down, looking at the wiring, it is encased in a very thick rubber encasing that goes all the way into a sealed junction at the base of the light bar. So for the basic wiring that you need to look at is going to be, first off, is how many amps is this going to pull, and do you need to use a relay or not? So in a previous video when I was installing my condenser fan, I mentioned that a relay is really kind of an electrical switch. It's used to isolate the power consumption of your device or this light bar from the circuit or the means that you're going to use to control it and switch it on and off. So I have halogen lights pre-wired on my front bumper, and those are turned on directly by a switch on my dash. That switch is rated for 15 amps, so the question is, how many amps is this light bar going to pull? So this is nominally rated at 162 watts. So how do you get that and figure out how many amps that is? Well, if you go back to high school physics, P equals IV. So that's power in watts is equal to the current in amps times the voltage in volts. So 162 watts, and you divide that out by a nominal 12 volts, it's right around 13.5 amps. So this should be a direct plug and play by just removing my halogen lights off the front bumper, wiring it into the existing wiring, which is 14 gauge wiring to handle 15 amps, and it will work great with my 15 amp switch. So no relay is needed for this installation. So everybody's mounting system is going to be a little bit different based on what you're attaching it to. I've obviously got a custom off-road tube bumper here with a winch and a light bar on the front. It's got tabs to mount it on, but most of the lights are going to have similar mounting systems. So I went ahead and removed the bolt off of this light, and you can see it's got a single bolt that sticks down as a stud, and you can see I've got a steel tab welded on my bumper with just a hole drilled through it. And I'm going to use these same tabs to mount the light bar too. So you're just going to have to figure out, using some ingenuity, how are you going to mount it to your Xterra if you don't have an off-road bumper? I always like to use quick disconnects. So you can buy these at any AutoZone in the trailer wiring section. These are 14 gauge wire extensions, but it's basically a 2-wire extension. So you can buy them and then cut them in the middle of the wires, and then you can just strip the ends and connect it to whatever you need to, and you have a quick disconnect. That's how I wired in my old lights, so this is going to make an easy installation. I already have the quick disconnect on my bumper. I just had to cut this off of my old lights and then attach it to my new light bar. Everything else should just be bolting it up to the tabs. Alright, so I don't need to show you every single crimp connection, but basically I've got the quick disconnect from the trailer wiring section at AutoZone. I've got barrel fittings that are just crimped on to connect them to the main pigtail, and I've got some heat shrink tubing that I'm just going to shrink over these to keep them nice, tight, and weatherproof. If you've seen any of my other electrical videos, you know I like to use the propane torch for heat shrink. And that shrunk up, that's going to hold that barrel connector in place, and then I'll just wrap it in electrical tape to give it some further weatherproofing around the edges. Alright guys, so I've got 2 of the mounts in. I decided to just take the 3rd mount off because I have all of this heavy winch wiring right in the middle. It's covering up that middle mount. And it's kind of getting pinched a little bit by the light bar, but I was able to flex it just enough to clear. So I'm going to go with 2 mounts instead. Now I still have to adjust and tighten down the set screws to hold it at the angle. Right now it's still loose and I can angle it up or down. I've got it at a pretty good straight ahead angle for right now, so I'm going to go ahead and use a 10mm socket and tighten down the side screws. if you want a little bit more info on general wiring, well, the way that I wired it is pretty straightforward. You have a ground wire, you have a positive 12 volt wire. So positive 12 volts is on the battery, right in the front passenger side of the engine bay. I just ran a wire along the inside of this fender, and there is a rubber grommet back here. And you can see I have a lot of wiring harnesses that pass through that. So I use a little bit of a razor blade and kind of cut a slit and then fish the wire through there using the wire coat hanger and taping it to the end of the wire. It comes out underneath the dash on the glove box side, on the passenger side of the vehicle. And you can kind of snake that down, and you can run it behind the glove box into the center console and the center dash area where I had my switch. I do recommend, if you cut or poke holes into this rubber grommet, to take some Plastidip or other type of rubberized plastic spray and just spray it over there. That'll help seal it up around the new wires that you fished through there. Alright guys, the sun has gone down. My light bar is fully installed, so I pulled over on a little back dirt road in the woods so we can test out the lights. Right now is the view with no lights on at all. Here's my regular low beam headlights. My high beam headlights, they don't do a lot different. And there's the LED light bar. That is actually an incredible amount of light. It makes it quite bright. So here's going from no lights on at all to just the light bar.